Give us an update on Spring Valley Lake.
Well, Terry, LAFCO, the 7 commissioners, held a hearing on February 19th. There were probably about 10 of us that showed up at the railroad station down in San Bernardino, got the wrong place. So we all ended up following each other on over. And there was a hearing. It went on till about 11:30. There were probably, I'm guessing, 15 people that spoke. There were probably 5 that spoke in favor of the issue, and there were about 10 that voted against it. You could tell. I mean, I've been around politics long enough, and I know that one of the commissioners had to make it a point of correcting my statement that Supervisor Lovingood had written the check for the application. I believe, and we've reached out, I believe, to Lori Marsden and asked her for a copy of the minutes when the Board of Supervisors approved this expenditure. I believe it was of $25,000. So Robert, if I was wrong, okay, then shame on me. It pretty much looked like the board was all in unison, and they Supervisor Rowe had to leave early. It was a pretty quick vote. So I mean, I've been a public official now for almost 10 years, so I know when a motion is made and a second is done very quickly, how it is. At the end of the day, the voters in Spring Valley Lake get to vote on this. So the issue is, are people in Spring Valley Lake willing to challenge not the decision? The decision's the decision. There's an appeal period, but are they willing to challenge the committee and the documents? So I think that what the issue comes. If anybody uses Excel that is watching this, I'm not an Excel guy. I'm an Excel person. My office is a lot smarter about computers than I am. If you put assumptions in data that you're using to get an assumption that you want, you can move numbers around all day long, okay? I can tell you one thing as president of Victor Valley Community College, okay? Our pension costs are continuing to soar. Our employee costs continue to soar. Our operating costs continue to soar. So when back in October 2nd and November 16th of 2019, when I went to 2 forums, and Rory Shannon and Dr. Paul Stanton said, these expenses are not going to increase. Trash is going to increase. I've sat down and met with Sheila Bath, who owns Advanced Disposal. She's going to keep that contract no matter what. There's like a 5-year unwinding. So for people to say, well, if she doesn't support this, this is not going to happen, that's not how it is. Okay, she's laid out what the costs are. She's got an incredible CFO over there, and they've said these costs are going to go up. What I found is the cost of just waste and the regulations in the state of California are going to continue to go. So I think what people need to decide is, do you want to hire an inexperienced group of people that have no governmental experience? There's a gentleman that lives inside Spring Valley Lake that was the finance director of a public entity, and I know him well. And I've asked him if he'll get involved, and I think he somewhat wants to stay out of this just because he has a lot of friends in there. He told me 3 weeks ago, he said, Joe, I was approached by the committee, and I told the committee this doesn't work. But you've got people in there that they don't want to ruffle a feather. They don't want to upset their friends. Right now, as of when we're doing this in early March, we have 75 people that have contacted me by Facebook or by email, and we keep that list updated. When we get to 150, we're going to contact those people and do an open forum. And I'm going to ask people to get involved. I'm not going to be a chairman of this. Some people have really wondered, why are you so involved in this? One, I was the proponent back in 2008 on March 15th that sent the email to Jim Card and Larry Hoover, said, let's take a look at this. I reached out to Kimberly Cox, who's at Hellendale, back in 2008 and said, let's go take a look at this. We couldn't even get our schedules together to go out and have lunch. I did in 2009. So all those emails are still in the 4 boxes of materials that I have here in the office. 2014, I reached out to Rory Shannon, who's helped write this report, and said, let's take a look at it. But after I looked at the report in May of last year, it became absolutely abundantly clear that there was no need to change something that's not broken. Now, with that said, there's 2 sides of every story. So I've asked Mr. Shannon on probably 4 or 5 occasions by email. So I do all my communication with him by email. So if there's any doubt that I'm not telling the truth, my office is more than glad to pull the emails up, take them to a public meeting and say, Rory, we have now sent you 8 documents. Okay, we've done a review of the report. We've looked at the waste management issue. We've looked at all kinds of issues, all the way down to the history of the CSA and what they want done. For some unknown reason, Mr. Shannon, who's been working on this, I think, like for 2.5 years, doesn't want to sit down and have a recorded session. Katrina Siverts is right here in the room as we do this. She had met with him back in February and asked him if he would record. She came to me and said, "Would you record?" Absolutely, it's the reason that the two of us are sitting here. I'm concerned that we're not being as transparent as we claim that we are. And when somebody says at the October 2nd meeting, and there were 35 people there, I've lied in bed for 2.5 years dreaming about this CSD. I'm thinking, wow, if I had said that, I'd probably be in really big trouble at home. I dream about doing deals, but I don't do it for 2.5 years. So I'm kind of wondering why we can't have an open dialogue. I've emailed multiple committee members, asked them to meet. They don't want to meet. Back before back when the notification of the vacancy at the Homeowners Association came out, I emailed Jim Carr, Larry Hoover, Lisa and Dennis Verhagen, Rory Shannon, Bo Goulet, I think the Stantons. I can't think of anybody else, and said, why don't you meet me on a day, it was the early part of February, it was a Thursday, down at Spring Valley Lake at 5 o'clock, and it would be me against you. And you can ask me all the questions you wanted. Nobody wanted to take me up on it. So you kind of wonder what secrecy means. I think in today's world that people get a little nervous about it. So, we'll have a grassroots effort. They had a very tight race out in Hellendale. I know that this committee is apparently hired or is hiring somebody. I reached out to a political consultant, a well-known political consultant, Dylan Levasowski. He works out at SCLA, but he's been around politics. He worked for, I think, Robert Lovingood. He worked for Paul Cook. And I asked him recently, I said, I understand that they're hiring you as a big gun to come on in here and, kind of shake the tree and, put together the mailing pieces and convince people. And he said he hadn't quite decided. But I've gone to that point and said, well, let's put it out. We don't have any consultants working for us. We have a lot of people that communicate with me, and I can tell you that they are very, very concerned. And they just don't think anything's wrong.
Okay, so Joe, I'm looking at this map that they have from LAFCO, and wondering if what you think of how they've got it organized as far as including part of Apple Valley and other things that seem like they're just odd things that are thrown into the mix here.
I don't know what final option they came up with. I think that is still somewhat negotiable with the residents. The Liberty Mutual water issue has not been resolved. I believe that will be resolved probably. I've been told by people decisions should come down from the court by August, where they'll have an idea. I was glad to see that Art Bishop was there representing the town. I know that Doug Robertson was there representing the town. They've been very clear about any concerns that they've got. I've really been more concerned about the bigger picture. If the water is the cheapest that we have within the region, and the Phelan CSD report on page 87 this year shows it, and anybody can go to their website and take a look at it. I was really surprised that Charlie Johnson was at the hearing on February 19th. I mean, he's not a paid gun. He's a nice guy. I knew him, I think, long before anybody in Spring Valley Lake knew what a CSD was. So I don't understand why he would be there as a proponent. It's kind of like, I know that Kimberly Cox with the Hellendale CSA, with their CSD was helping Rory and the team. I was going to ask her to recuse herself at the deal, but I thought, let's let the vote go and see kind of how it is. So the boundaries, I think the boundary, and I think that Sam Martinez and his staff, Sam's got a great staff. Latricia Jones, I worked with her many years ago. She's the clerk of LAFCO. I worked with her when I was on tax appeals board for the county. So the boundaries are kind of the boundaries. It doesn't make any sense. And there were people from the Equestrian Center that came to the hearing. One of them was a retired sheriff. I think somehow he's retired from law enforcement, and he just said, this doesn't make any sense. We don't need to change something that's not broken. So we'll see. So I think that one of the things I'm looking for is the question from somebody that says, do the people in the equestrian area, do they get to vote on this okay, because that's somewhat unclear to me. Are they still going to be able to vote for members of the Spring Valley Lake Board of Directors, which is that's the HOA portion, and they kind of get that clarified. When I reached out to Sam Martinez, who's the executive director of LAFCO, about some questions, and he immediately, within a couple of days, responded, and we posted that. So I think right now we probably have 35 questions so far, and all the answers. The only thing that we don't have is this. Back the Monday before this, so it was Monday the 18th of February. I was asked by a guy who I just love and adore, Norm Hurst, who won the big presidential award at that foundation gala, and his son Brian. Brian's running for the board of directors within the association, and just a great guy. Number one producer over at Shearer Realty, and a hard worker, and a very serious person, and somebody who's also a pastor. And between him and his father, they've really helped me, regain my sense of spirituality. We met with Rory, and we met at Panera Bread to talk about the issue with the CSD and about the golf course. And I was very, very clear about the golf course, that the community really needs to support the association doing something with the golf course and working with Club Corp. And I believe at the time that we had met, that might have changed up until this point, that there was a 3-member committee. I think Robert Reed was on that committee. I believe that Joanne Romero was on that committee, and then the president, his name is Brian. I don't know what Brian's last name is. I just have just escaped. I've reached out to ask him to meet, but I don't know if that's going to happen. They've got a committee that they're going to make a recommendation, I think, to the association. I believe that they're trying to work with Club Corp. We need to get our community behind some solution with Club Corp and the association on the golf course. The golf course is not only a great asset to Spring Valley Lake, it's a great asset to the high desert. It's a great golf course. Robert Trent Jones Jr. and Sr. designed it back in 1969. It was built, at a cost of about $2 million with the building. So we met for coffee, and the second part of the conversation was, Rory, why don't we put the CSD issue on the back burner? Let's wait and get the golf course done first. Let's not confuse the voters. Let's not ask people in Spring Valley Lake to accept an assessment, potential assessment, or a recommendation from the homeowners association, and then all of a sudden go back and say, well, we want to create another level of government and confuse people. And unfortunately, I think that fell on deaf ears. And Rory said, Joe, we're so far ahead. We have the vote tomorrow. Then shelve it. I think we need to do what is in the best interest of Spring Valley Lake and its residents. So much so that I had met with Brian Hurst the Tuesday before that meeting with his dad, and he came to me and told me that he was going to be running as a part of a slate. I think the slate is being run by the Concerned Property Owners, that I was one of the co-founders. He's on there. Bill Scott, a great guy. I've known Bill forever. Sherry Boyd, who I've never met, she's with the gas company. I think it's Brian Bickert, who's the current president, are going to be running. And during that conversation, I had already, pulled my papers, had my statement typed, with our 300 words or 350, a picture had already been sent on in. And after I listened to Brian tell me about his plan on the golf course and make it the number one priority, I said, why cloud this election on up? Let's let better people run that are really going to be focused. I think at the end of the day that we got to get rid of some of the sandbox, games that have gone on down there. I think we're in a position down there because we put ourselves in that position. I think that we need, very, very strong leadership at the board level. I think with that leadership and trying to find the right operator, now you're going to be able to convince the homeowners and the community to do something. So, I'd said in the past, talk to Frank Vane at the McMahon Group. You could talk to Troon. Robert Reed is Robert Reed Jr., I should say. Just an incredible guy, very, very, very concerned about his community. He puts his money where his mouth is. He built the veterans facility next to the country club. They did a great job. He's come to me probably 15 times and asked me questions about the golf, and because I've been involved in the industry as an investor. We've tried to help him, and hopefully he's been able to take that to the committee and see what's up. I will say that I understand, and people that are members of the country club would know this better. November, I think March 11th and 12th, they're going to be doing an open forum for country club members to talk about what Club Corp's plan is to turn the country club around and try to increase its membership and its net profit. But I think hopefully at that meeting, Phil Steitzka, who's senior vice president of Club Corp, will also address the fact that the club really does need some improvements and has some issues that they need to deal with that people that have been members or non-members are aware of, but it's still a great asset, and I totally rally and support whatever decision comes from that. It's only to our best interest and to the region's best interest, to the Mojave River Valley's best interest. I think, Katrina, at the end of the day, okay, I sit as an elected public employee at a community college that will be one of the greatest community colleges in the next 5 years in the nation. Employee costs, pension costs, operating costs continue to go on up. Okay, when I met with Rory Shannon back on February 18th at Panera Bread with Norm Hurst and Brian Hurst, he said that that apparently we're being billed another $1 million a year from the county than we should have been, and that the county's not paying rent for the facility, the 3-acre facility over off of Santa Fe. And I offered right in front of Norm and Brian, I said, stop, whoa. Okay, Rory, you and I set a meeting, go on down and meet with Gary McBride, the CAO, and have this conversation. Well, he didn't want to have that conversation because I think you have people that want to serve on a public board, which is great. I mean, if you want to serve on a public board, I'm concerned that we're going to have some good people with great intentions that sitting on a board at Spring Valley Lake, and they've had a hard time trying to get people to run for years. I mean, Jim Carr and Larry Hoover and a couple of people that are part of CPO, because I'm no longer a part of it, spend half their year trying to cultivate people to run, and then they run, and then they don't want to stay on the board, and they don't want to run, and they don't want to run. And that's kind of normal when you're in a volunteer situation. So is the difference because they're going to get paid a stipend? Is it because they're going to get health insurance? Rory had said to me, well, Joe, isn't that the reason that you ran for the board at the college? No, I didn't run for the board. I was appointed. And let me tell you, the money that I've spent out of my own pocket, out of my staff to teach me the first 3 years about what was going on in the college far exceeds what it costs to have a Cadillac Premium that I could buy for myself. So I again would challenge Rory to put together that list of those issues that I can't find where the county has apparently said to him or admitted to him or acquiesced to him that they're overcharging. I didn't get that feeling at all. I mean, the county brings us risk management, engineering. I mean, they bring us all the county council, personnel, all of the issues that if a catastrophic event were to happen, the county's got resources that we just don't have. But, again, maybe I'll get an email from Supervisor Lovingood telling me that, I've had this all wrong and that, Mr. Rigney forgot to tell me, 10 years ago or 5 years ago when we met. We met many, many times. He's just a great guy. He was a great public servant. And, he worked with Jerry Newcomb and a bunch of people. And I really enjoyed working with him. But they never said to me, hey, we intended to raise you to be 50 years old. And the time at 50 years old is let you, go out on your own. Never, ever, ever have I heard that. But it could be, could almost be like fake news. You never know. Can you tell me why we need to spend, $150,000 plus a 40% override for a general manager, and $100,000 for a water manager, $100,000 for a sewer manager, and then 9 positions at $50,000 a year for administrative type people. And this person said to me, Joe, where did you get that? And I said, from the report that your name's on. And I was a little surprised. In my world as a private sector employer, we can't afford to pay our clerical people $50,000 a year and having a 40% override. We just can't do it. So again, I'm a very conservative Republican. I know how to balance a checkbook. I've gone through good times and bad times. I've been through lawsuits and I've won them. I sit as the president of a board that, we are adopting our first balanced budget in years at the college. We've had what we call balanced budgets, but really, we see a headwind in front of us. So we have a presentation in our next board meeting that will show in the next 3 years where we're going to start hitting a very serious headwind financially. And the question is, what are we going to do? Pensions are not going to go down. Operating costs are not going to go down. Electricity costs are not going to go down. Water costs are not going to go down. Maintaining the parking lots are not going to go down. So the issue about the employment, it really bothered me because I just don't, and what Rory has said is, well, at the time that we get this, we'll kind of figure it out. We'll go out and we want to be competitive, and we're going to have these people on the CalPERS, and we're going to give the older employees from the county the shot. Those costs, everybody knows that these pension costs and their obligations to the citizens within the state. If CalPERS were to go broke, those obligations are picked up by the residents of the state. So, the voters, the registered voters within Spring Valley Lake need to understand that these costs aren't going to remain the same. And I think that I can't really think of what I said to Rory 2 weeks ago on the 18th. Why don't we go on down and get a group of people to go down to the county, negotiate with Gary McBride, negotiate with Luther Snokes, who seems like a really good guy, and say, how can we cut some of these costs that you believe that you're telling me that we're incurring? Now, I've asked Rory for those costs, and 3 weeks have gone by and I haven't received them. So are they? So I think this is going to be kind of like the debates, like the presidential debate. People are going to believe one side or the other, and I'm all about debating it because I think that people really do need to ask some very, very, very hard questions. This is not an emotional issue. There were some people that spoke in favor of it at the LAFCO, and they just said, I think it's a good idea. Well, that doesn't pay the bills to somebody that's on fixed income. The majority of people that have contacted me are people that are older, that have fixed income, that are very, very concerned about having a spike in an inexperienced group of people and a potential lawsuit that could be catastrophic. And I say to them, then get involved. You need to be involved. So Katrina, the challenge that I had with the projections, I can sit down and create a projection for a project. So on this conference room table is a project that when it's fully developed, that we develop, okay, will be about $150 million. I have sat down with some of our financial partners, and I've had an independent person that does our calculations say, okay, Joe, if we adjust this number, this outcome will come this way, okay? So with a partner that we're talking to right now about financing the project, we've said, scrap what we've given you, and you go back and take the assumptions and you put in your own assumptions to be sure that what we're telling you is correct. I could be pulling the wool by your eyes, which I'm not going to. But that's, so you can put any number you want to anything and get to an outcome that you want. So I've been very concerned, and again, I've asked Mr. Shannon to debate this publicly. I've asked Dr. Stanton to give us the data, and I've been told no, we can't do that. If we did that to you, that'd be showing favoritism. You couldn't do that at Victor Valley College, which had nothing to do with with anything. I think that we have some incredibly smart residents. We have some great people within Spring Valley Lake, and that really do care. And I think that they really want to know what this is all about. So. Why then wouldn't one of the board members send out the notification to the 5,400 registered voters and say, hey, this is what the plan is, send it on out so that everybody got it. Now all of a sudden we're really being transparent about it. So I had a couple of people ask me last week when I was actually out of town, why didn't the county notify anybody? Well, so the county did notify people. They put a notice, they published it, I guess, in the daily press. Well, the daily press circulation has gone down considerably, and not everybody gets it. How do I know that? Because I did a survey with 13,047 people, and 7% of my respondents came from the daily press, while 41% came from Victor Valley News Group. Okay, 17% came from Facebook. They also, I think they said in the hearing, and I was in the back, I thought that Sam said that they put it in the San Bernardino County Sun newspaper. Well, you know, if people don't get it, I mean, wouldn't they know that we have all these SVL addresses? Wouldn't it have been cheaper to have sent a postcard? So I'll bet, and boy, this is not going to go over well. Okay, you're talking about challenging the establishment. Because I do a lot of printing. I probably spend 20 grand a year in printing. So would it have been better to have taken the cost of publishing the newspaper and taken a postcard and sent to every registered voter and said, this is what the plan is, go to this website, here are all the attachments? But, you know, I think that government can be very convenient in telling you that they're transparent, and then when they're not, they can come back with an excuse. You know, when somebody calls me at the college and says, Joe, why doesn't this happen? I don't come back and give them some BS excuse. I go to our president and superintendent, I ask the question, we give them back a response. And sometimes if it was something that we should have done better, we tell people we could have done it better, rather than trying to substantiate that, you know, I'm a part of government and that I'm always perfect. You know, I think that has people a little perturbed. I think that people really are very suspected, you know, of government and governmental officials. I have people, you know, question me, and you know what? I don't take it personal. I don't fire off on people that are, you know, in the audience because somebody's asked me a question that might have rattled my cage. You know, that's people's rights. You live in the greatest country in the world. I mean, ask it.